Welcome to the Infinite Star Connections with your host. I'm Viviane Chauvet and my dear friend here, Jeff Demers. Today we are really excited to have Debbie Solaris, who have so graciously accepted to be with us. We're going to go deep into galactic history, akashic record. We're going to travel to the multiverse together, and I cannot tell you that I couldn't wait for today to arrive. Even though Debbie is very well known, allow me to properly introduce our wonderful, very gifted guest today.
Thank you.
Of course, Debbie, welcome. And for everyone who are joining us live from all over the world, welcome Michelle, Monica, welcome Fadia, Karin, and everyone who's joining us today. Thank you for being here every time. Debbie is an ET contactee, interdimensional traveler, and galactic historian. After a fateful extraterrestrial contact experience a few years ago, Debbie awakened her true star lineage and higher calling. Through her ancestral connection with the Akashic records, she has been receiving downloads of galactic historical information and universal spiritual knowledge ever since. She feels that it is a big part of her mission while here on Earth to help awaken others to their own true divine selves and cosmic origins. She's also a certified Akashic record reader and a very gifted intuitive, using information channeled from her Arcturian and a Pleiadian guides to heal and assist others on their own spiritual journey. Debbie has featured on Beyond Belief show with George Noory and an Open Minds with Regina Meredith on Gaia TV Conscious Media. Of course, the list goes on and on. You have such an impressive credential, Debbie. We want to welcome you today. Oh, maybe we have some technical issue. Let's reset everyone. Nonetheless, we are happy to have Debbie today. I know she will be back in a moment. Thank you for being here. I want to say hello to Nathalie, Stéphane, Paul, Kat. Welcome here. Welcome everyone, his family. Wonderful to have you. Hermosa, my friend, I know you are. Hermosa feels forever. Looking for this interview. So do I, my friend. So do I. Debbie Bright, welcome. And of course, David. David says hello to both of us. Jeff.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So let me check my email, making sure that if it's just a technical issue, that we give Debbie a few minutes to refresh her connection and come back. It's going to be amazing. Hello, Elvie, Heather. Thank you for being here. How you doing, my friend? How's the Ponty and the Galactic family going?
They're always here, and they were making noises yesterday in the afternoon. I was in the basement here, and I was playing the game, and of course, it was just me and the dog, and they started moving stuff again and picking stuffing up. I thought it could have been a mouse, but it was too big of a noise for a mouse. So I mean, I don't know what else it could be, but they were papers on the floor. So my estimation is, because I have boxes, I have my old company, so I got these banker boxes, with papers on it and stuff, and of course they were on the floor. So so they're here. They've always been here.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
wish they pick them up, but whatever, it's fine.
Well, I mentioned that, Jeff, because your Ponty group, your star families are so they're very playful and they love to, they really love to, um, explore your environment, whether it's object, whether
Hmm.
it's making noise, whether it's
True.
even tacticals. They like it. So we're still waiting for Debbie. She was on with us a moment ago. She came back and then she disconnected again. So let me reach out to her uh, to make sure that she can join again, because we
You
would
know,
like to dive into that conversation with her. So everyone who's joining us, stay with us. Our guests were with us a moment ago, but there's just probably some technical adjustment to be made. In the meantime, I want to welcome Simon from Glastonbury. Mike, aloha. Uh, very nice to have you. Leilani, good to have you. Sama and Jimmy, thank you for being here. That's wonderful. Directly from Taiwan. Oh, Jimmy, this is wonderful to have you. So, oh, we are very happy. So, let me just connect with my guest, our guest today, Debbie Solaris. You see her name on the screen. We're just waiting for her to come back. I think that so.
You know, another thing that they did too is that we have a puppy now, right? So of course the puppy's in the room with us. She's in her crate, and you know the last night, I mean, she was just wanting to get out and play. It's like 2 in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I went into deep meditation and said, guys, please help me out here. Do something about this dog. Make her, just relax. And I swear to God, within 10 seconds, she was out. And I'm like, thank you, thank you.
Well, for everyone who's listening right now, what we're talking about is Jeff has a new puppy at home, a new family member. She's a baby, so what, as you can imagine, babies are very, um, very playful, and they don't have a sleep pattern just yet. So, Jeff, you've been asking if I understand correctly, are you asking your Ponty Star family to kind of help you with the new baby at home with your new puppy?
Yeah,
Is
she's a chocolate lab, so she's a handful right now.
I know what you mean. All right, so everyone, we had Debbie Solaris on the show for a moment ago. She unexpectedly disconnected. There was some probably technical issue. I reached out to her, asking her to come back. We want Debbie on back for sure. So we're just simply,
We can recap.
filling ticket space. In the meantime, I want to welcome also more wonderful people joining us. Diane, Jean, welcome to be here. I'm glad you were able to catch it live. Wonderful to have you, Karen. Yes. Yes. So Karen is asking us to introduce ourselves. So my name is Viviane Chauvet. I'm going to put the banner up. You'll see our names. There you go. My name is Viviane Chauvet, and this is my co-host and friend Jeff Demers. We're both the host and the producer of the Infinite Star Connections podcast. We started this podcast well over 3 years now to really give the Star Nations a voice. We're here to represent our beautiful intergalactic families and communities. I'm an Arcturian being, and Jeff is a representative for the Ponti. Hey, Debbie is back.
All
Yay!
right, here we
Welcome
go.
back. We're not able to hear you right now.
Sorry about that.
Here we go. Perfect.
Yeah, my camera's not working, my usual camera, so I have to go with the computer camera, which is not working that great. So I'll have to go with what we have. So I'm sorry. I was trying to get it to work. Having some technical issues.
Yes, no worry at all. It is the place to be, like our dear friend David is saying. What matters the most to be is you're here. Camera, computer camera, or other camera or not, you're here, and we can feel your light already. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. And then I was introducing you and reading a portion of your bio. This is where the technical issue took place, but nonetheless, welcome back. Let's dive. I am thrilled to learn more from you and your amazing journey. And I look at your bio, and you had quite a profound extraterrestrial contact experience a few years ago. Maybe we can start here how it began for you, Debbie, for those who are rediscovering who you are.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for everybody's patience as far as getting me back online. So I appreciate that. So my journey started back in 2012. I basically lived a very ordinary life. I was not very interested in UFOs or extraterrestrials. As a matter of fact, I didn't even believe they existed. I was brought up Roman Catholic. We didn't talk about the paranormal that much. And certainly not about UFOs and extraterrestrial beings. That just wasn't a conversation that was ever had in my family or in my circle. I I got exposed to it through my now husband, who, unlike me, was always really interested in the paranormal and ETs and UFOs. And he would read a lot of articles about these particular beings. And I was pretty skeptical. I read some of the articles he shared with me. I was skeptical. I wasn't a believer until I had my own ET contact experience, which happened in 2012. I had two separate experiences. The first one was in May 2012. I went to sleep, and when I came to, I was in a different consciousness. It wasn't dreamlike. It was very, very real. I think when people don't realize that when you're in the higher dimensions, it's like a hyper reality. It's like the colors are more intense, the details are sharper. It makes the 3D look very dull in comparison. So I knew that it wasn't a dream. I knew it was I was in some other reality. And when I was looking around, I found that I was on board an extraterrestrial starship. And you could tell it was a starship, but there was some very non-metallic aspects about it. A lot of times starships in popular sci-fi shows and movies are depicted as being metal. Starships, extraterrestrial starships, actually aren't comprised of metal at all. This particular ship I was on was created with, it looked like light and plasma and some sort of material I haven't ever seen before, but it was very, very fluid, very organic. And the ship seemed like it had a sentient, had a very sentient aspect to it, because it was directing me towards a space. And when I got to this particular space, which I found out later was called the orientation room, I found that I was there with 4 or 5 other beings. And these were beings I've never seen before. I could tell immediately they weren't Earth humans. They weren't even human. I think they had, very extraterrestrial presence about them and appearance. So I was trying to formulate questions in my head, because I was just like wondering, well, what's going on, and as I was formulating the questions in my head, these beings were answering my questions telepathically. And that's mainly how extraterrestrial beings communicate with each other. I wasn't even sure if they would speak my language, and yeah, they speak our language. But at least there's kind of a lack of filter with a telepathic communication, where I think it transcends language, and beings are able to speak to each other regardless of what their native language is. So they were answering my questions even before I could finish the questions in my head. I mean, that was how in tune they were, And I asked them the obvious questions, where am I? What is this? Who are you? Why am I here? Those types of questions. And they told me that they were Arcturians from Arcturus. And within this space I was in, there was a holographic sphere that I was in, that they were kind of illustrating their concepts to me. And they showed me on a map where Arcturus was located, which was in the Bodas constellation. And they also showed me the planets that revolved around the Arcturus star. And there were several of them that they said was inhabited. And the other thing they told me was that the reason why I was on board the ship, which, I mean, I'm nobody, okay, I'm not anybody special, at least, was because they heard a prayer I sent out to the universe 2 weeks before, where I was asking for assistance for planet Earth. And they were very moved by the prayer. The second reason was because they told me that I'm an Arcturian soul. That was part of their soul family, and that I had chosen to be on Earth to conduct a mission, but I had forgotten my mission. So it was time for them to remind me, gently remind me what my mission was. I don't know if you can call it gentle. It was pretty abrupt, but that's how Arcturians work sometimes, So sometimes we got to get the message across quick because we don't have much time, So they answered a lot of my questions about the planet Earth, what's going on, what the concept of religion, why religion existed, why politics existed, and the thing they told me that I think had the most impact on me was that they told me that the third dimension on planet Earth is an illusion. It's not real. And they told me this like 4 or 5 times while we were having our long conversation. And I didn't understand at the time what they meant by illusion, because I kept telling them, well, everything seems so real. I can touch my desk. I can touch trees. I can, everything just appears real. And now that I've been, doing spiritual work for over a decade now, I understand more what they meant by that. But especially seeing the comparison between the third dimension and the 5th dimension, or even beyond. I'm not sure what dimension the ship was in. I know it was definitely higher than 3rd dimension. It might have been 5th or even beyond. To describe the Arcturian beings, they had the classical Arcturian features, but it was difficult for me to really look at them directly because their auras were so bright. They have a multicolor aspect to their auras that there's colors in their auras I have never seen. It's, beyond the Earth light spectrum. And I had a hard time looking at them directly, so I had to sneak glances on the periphery at times, and then I was able to see what they look like. But they look like the classical Arcturians, the larger heads, larger eyes. The eyes did have pupils and irises, kind of bluish skin tone as far as I could tell, but definitely not looking like anything I've ever seen, as far as depictions of extraterrestrials. I was exposed through my husband's articles to gray aliens and Nordics, and they didn't look like either one of those. So I knew that I was amongst benevolent beings. And when you're encountering these beings, they just send off this love energy. You don't even have time to be afraid or to feel any anxiety, because they just bathe you with all this love and acceptance, so you feel very comfortable in their presence. The ship was amazing. It had technology. I can't even describe what the technology was like, because it was just beyond anything I've ever seen as, in my Earth experience. But there was also a familiarity to it. Like it didn't shock me as much as I thought it would. The Arcturians did show me around the ship. There was one room in particular that I remembered, because when I walked into the space, the whole space turned purple, and it was showing, I don't know, some sort of Asian, the only way I can describe it was Asian landscapes. And I asked them, why is this room doing this? And they said, well, it's responding to what you find relaxing. So evidently Asian landscapes I find relaxing. I don't know, but I do love the color purple. It is my favorite color, even though I'm wearing blue today. I understand from my work later on that blue and purple are the usual Arcturian colors, because they align with the higher chakras. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we love those colors. And then they kind of cut me loose. So they said they had something to do, and they were allowing me just to wander the ship on my own. And I found myself in a large central space. the ship was huge. It was city-sized, and it had many extraterrestrial beings, not just Arcturians, but extraterrestrial beings of all different species. And majority looked humanoid. I mean, maybe with some variations, but they were quite a bit taller than what we experience on Earth, the majority of them. And somehow I was just wandering around this atrium, and I realized that there was light shafts that would transport beings across this huge atrium space that was several stories, tall. And I tried, the light shafts kind of looked like rainbow-like, and it wasn't physical. It was like an energy of some sort. And beings were getting on the light shaft, and it was transporting them across the space. And so I thought, well, it would be really cool if I could get on one of those, because I want to see what it was like. So I kept trying to step on one, and it would throw me off. And then I'll step on it, and it would throw me off. And this happened like 3 or 4 times. And then the 4th time, there was a Pleiadian male being that caught me. And he said telepathically to me that I wasn't doing it correctly, that I had to set intention on where I wanted to go before stepping onto the light shaft. Right. Otherwise, it doesn't know where to take me. So that's a kind of a good metaphor for life. If we don't know, we don't set intention, we don't know where we're going, so it's that we're not going to go anywhere. So I finally set intention on where a specific space. I just said, I want to go there. And then I stepped on the light shaft, and it was transporting me across. It was the coolest experience ever. And I was so excited. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up and I was back in my bed. And I knew at that point that my life had changed, that it was net things were never going to be the same again. I don't know how I knew that, but I did. And I knew it wasn't a crazy dream because of how real things were. It just seemed very, very real. I had a second experience on board the ship in December 2012. Same ship, same kind of scenario. I was in the same orientation room, except instead of meeting with the Arcturian beings, I was meeting with the Pleiadian man who was helping me with the light shaft, along with a Pleiadian female. The man did all the talking. The female pretty much stayed quiet through our whole interaction. And they were telling me more personal information about certain members of my family, about my therapy cat, Piglet, who was actually a Pleiadian being on a mission. So that was a whole crazy story. She was actually a registered therapy animal, and she and I worked as a animal assisted therapy team for 6 years. So, and then I always knew she was an unusual cat because she was one of the very few cats in Colorado that received the American Humane Association therapy cat certification. So we did visits at nursing homes, hospitals, libraries, things like that. So they told me that my cat was actually a Pleiadian being from the Pleiadian High Council that was preparing me for my mission, through doing this animal assisted therapy work. So they were sharing that kind of information with me, some information about my father who committed suicide in 2007. And from there, it was a shorter visit. They couldn't hold the frequency to have me there because they had to really lower the frequency to get me in the space. And then the next thing I knew, I was, woke up and I was back in my bed like before. I did notice that after these 2 experiences, my extrasensory perception increased 100-fold. I was starting to download massive amounts of galactic historical information and information about star systems, which I never knew before, never studied it, didn't have any interest in it. And then all of a sudden I had all this information, and The other thing I noticed is that I was seeing UFOs all the time. I was interdimensionally traveling spontaneously. I was seeing auras around peoples and things, starting to be able to read energy. Sometimes I was able to telepathically connect with or read people's thoughts. That was an ability I did not like, so I asked the guides to turn it off. But there was quite a few abilities that came online, and how that led me to doing akashic records readings was basically through this whole long journey I took after that, where for 3 years I took a massive amounts of, I took a lot of spiritual classes. I was just trying to figure out what the heck happened to me, because I thought maybe I was going crazy, and eventually I did. I did come across Galactic or Akashic reading courses just here locally in Colorado, and eventually I did take these courses and realize, oh, I have a gift for this. And by that time, I was starting to get a better understanding of what was going on, and I started doing Galactic Akashic readings around 2014. I went public with my story in December 2015, and then started doing presentations on galactic history throughout the Front Range of Colorado in 2017. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016, so I had to take a year off to take care of my health, but then resumed my mission in 2017. And in 2019, I was invited for the very first time, to be on Gaia TV, and that's and then the rest is history. So that's kind of my short and sweet kind of story, but thank you for allowing me to share it.
Real quick, prior to your interaction, did you have missing time?
As far as just time that was missing, yeah, I think so. I think there was times where I couldn't account for, because sometimes I'd be driving for work and I'd be like, how did I get here? Or I don't remember how I got to this certain space. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of experiencers that have missing time prior to a major event, so that they can prepare you with all these energies that you're going to be exposed to, so that you don't get too terribly messed up.
Yeah, I would say that probably happened a few times.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Debbie, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. And of course, you're always welcome, especially in the space. I mean, look at the three of us. We're really deeply representing so many beautiful aspects of our intergalactic star families, our communities. Jeff directly with his family, the Ponti, or known as what, the Mizani, that has the
the Mizani, and also don't forget the Umo.
The Humo too, yes, for Jeff.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Directly when Jeff and I first met, his Ponti mother, as I call her, came to me and says, do you know who that is to me, to us? Do you know that you have to take care of him? She was very protective of him, and it was wonderful to see her stepping forward and showing me, that red giant star when they come from, and to let me understand who Jeff was really. And then my Arcturian father came and says, remember that we are part of ultimately the same federation, the same community. And that's for the beginning of our partnership, just to give you a very, very brief backstory of how Jeff and I landed here on this podcast and we create this. But I want to go back to your amazing experience, right, with beloved family. You know that I am an Arcturian being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Debbie. And when you talked about the planetary size, and we do have in the Arcturian fleet, where we are everywhere, literally everywhere in the multiverse, and the planetary size ship, what I've seen so many times, is when you describe them, I can feel myself back in my Arcturian self being on board and being aboard among my star family and looking at interstellar map, looking at interconnections with other members. And you're right, we work with some of the Pleiadians, we work with beings that sometimes some of them look like almost like cetacean beings, like,
Hmm.
or almost like a lobster shaped being that I
Yeah,
remember.
there was a few beings on board the ship that didn't look humanoid at all. I mean, they were, they look crustacean, or I don't know, it's like, um, which, we can laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, wow, these are really interesting looking beings. I wasn't even sure what star system they were from, but
Yeah.
some of them I did recognize. I mean, just from, popular ufology, you could kind of guess like what a Syrian looks like, or a Pleiadian, but some of them were very different. I mean, and they came from very far off star systems. But there was hundreds of these beings on board the ship.
Mhm.
I mean, that was the amazing. That's how huge this ship was. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it was, these ships are city sized. They're
Yeah.
huge. I mean, they're not little bitty, transport ships at all.
No, no, no.
Yeah, but,
And
thank
yeah.
you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm glad it brought back some good memories, or good feelings. I still remember it like it. I remember it like it happened yesterday, because it was such an extraordinary experience
Mm.
that it's just one of those experiences. I'm sure Jeff can probably relate to this too. That it just you don't it's just a life-changing experience. You're never
Yeah.
going to forget it.
And it's amazing that we can only see three colors, the variants of all three colors, and there's such a wider range out there
Yeah.
that we can't even see.
Well, that's part of the next evolutionary process that even the Octurians and the other galactics speak of, is while we're going to readjust our senses. And you mentioned about your multidimensional sensory points, which I completely resonate with and work with. So every day, it's part of my everyday
Hmm.
living. It's we're going to start to attune ourselves, and not just the three of us, but everyone on the planet who are on their journey, to reattune yourself to perceive those higher light spectrum frequency. They're not visible right now. And we're going to more shift beyond the attune spectrum light. So when you talk about the luminosity of the Arcturians aura, and that's exactly it. They're so full of light. And
Hmm.
because I am an Arcturian being, when I am going on board, which is for me an on and off going process, it's like
Hmm.
every week I'm
Hmm.
always going in and out. It's
Hmm.
because of who I am. I'm going back into my avatar self. So this is why my experience is a bit different, because we're able to gaze into each other's eyes, so to speak. And when we look at each other, that translucidity of who we are, the luminosity of their
Hmm.
beings, what they emanate. So this is why many people will say, oh, they're blue or they're purple, or they will see them in different shades.
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful luminosity. Love the way you described it. To this day, Debbie, what group would you say that you, or maybe do you have a majority of a core group that you work with today, or who are you connecting with in your work?
Mostly the Arcturian collective, I would
Mm.
say. Those are my peeps. I mean, I just I just connect with them mostly. But I work, I mean, through my work with the Galactic Akashic records. I work with many different other races. The Andromeda Galaxy Soul Group. I work with the Altairian, Galactic Councils. I also work with Pleiadian High Council. I mean, it just depends on what information I'm needing at that time. But and I connect with a lot of beautiful star seeds, through the work that I do. So a lot of times I'm connecting with their guides as well as my own guides. And that could be from anywhere in the galaxy or even beyond. But yeah, I would say the predominant group would be the Arcturian collective. And I did come from a planet. You might know this planet. It's called Pitola is my understanding of the name of it. I don't know if that's the actual Arcturian name of it, but that's how it's depicted. And it was a planet that I think was the most heavily populated. There's several Arcturian planets, but this one was the most heavily populated, and it was mostly ambassadorial in its focus. So, Vivian, you can probably speak to this. A lot of Arcturian souls, when we're getting trained, we get cross-trained in many different areas. So it's not like we get super specialized, and the reason for that is because when we're doing ambassadorial work with other star systems, we need to have a full range of abilities, whether it be technical, healing oriented, or working with akashic records, or doing mediation, psychology type of work. So we're multi-talented. And it's also because we're not competitive, so they don't want any one Arcturian being to say, well, my work is more important than yours, or I got more training than you did. There's no competition in Arcturus, so all of us get the same training, so all of us are equal, and for that reason, on Arcturus, many Arcturian beings look very alike because they don't want even competition with physical looks, so and I noticed that even with Arcturian star seeds, like there's similarities to how we look. I don't know. I know that sounds silly. I mean, we're being born in many different races, but there's kind of an I don't want to say androgynous, but more like we have the ability to blend into many different races of beings or races of humans. I think we do that purposefully so that we can blend in and interact with many different nationalities or many different groups. And maybe we were like that even in different star systems. So I noticed there's kind of a multiracial kind of appearance with some Arcturian star seeds for that reason. But to answer your question, yes, I do work with the Arcturian collective. And it's usually any of them. I mean, I probably have like, I don't know, 2 or 3 major guides I work with the most, but I can connect with any of them. And that's how Arcturus is. Arcturus, we're very connected. That's one thing I notice with Arcturian culture is that there's this oneness, there's this ultimate connection with all of these beings. It's not a hive mind. It's more, I mean, there's individual personalities within this collective, but we're all so connected. We all support each other. We all love each other. So when Arcturian starseeds incarnate on planet Earth, we often feel very, very separated. We don't feel right. I don't know. It feels very, like we're separated from, our family, so it takes us like half a lifetime to try to figure out what's happening and figure out why things are the way they are on this planet, and then to do our work after that. So I don't know if you found that to be the case, Jeff and Vivian. But,
yeah, actually, my interaction was immediate, and then after George left, I knew exactly what I had to do and how to do it, and I haven't looked back since. That was 2018, I think it was. And to this day, it just it keeps going and going and going, and I know people think, well, you're lucky. I wish that would happen to me. But you know what? It is a dedication that, once you accept it, they are relentless and they'll keep at you.
Yeah. I feel like the breast cancer that I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January 2016. And I think the reason why I was presented with breast cancer was in a way purposeful, because I didn't want to do the work. I just kept saying, I don't think I'm ready for this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be here. And so I was presented with this disease in order to, I think, force my hand. Like, okay, if you're really serious about doing the mission, you need to fight to be here, because this is your opportunity to check out, because I could have checked out, through having cancer, but it was my guides were just presenting me with this choice. Okay, you're either going to stay and do the mission, or you're not going to do the mission and you're just going to check out. So at that point, I chose to stay. I have a lot of love for planet Earth, and part of it too was maybe, I didn't want to just give up. I didn't want to just abandon the mission, but I did choose to stay, and I was without using any allopathic means, such as I did not use chemotherapy. I didn't use radiation. I didn't use any anti-estrogen drugs to recover from my cancer. I used all natural methods. Within 9 months, I was declared in remission. And I've been in remission for about 5 or 6 years now. But in the meantime, my guides were hard on me. They were telling me, you need to quit your job. You need to devote yourself to this spiritual work. And that was a fight between me and my partner, my husband, for 4 years. He didn't want me to retire, and I kept telling him I have to retire. I cannot no longer exist in the matrix. I need to break out of the matrix. So eventually in 2019, I did retire from my 3D job. 2 years earlier than I was supposed to, because that's how serious I took this mission. And Vivian, I don't know if you have experienced this. I know I have, but sometimes our Arcturian guides are hard on us. I don't know, they send us on these different little missions, or these little lessons to teach us things, or to get us in alignment with our mission. And sometimes you're questioning it the whole time. I know, like, why are they having me do this? But it ultimately has a really great effect, So so that's what I found with my experience. But yeah, it's So once you get presented with the mission, it's like you have to make a choice.
That's really funny, because Vivian's father, her Arcturian father, told me what I had to do for Vivian. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, you have to watch out for her. Like, how am I going to do that? He goes, you'll find a way. So yeah, so I do the best I can to watch out for her, but she's going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
got to pick her up when she falls.
No, I mean, I feel that way too. Like, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but
and her father was this huge, massive energy. It reminded me of Poseidon, and so that's what he represents. When he wants my attention, he comes in that form.
Yeah, gotcha.
To that. But yeah, he's just like this,
Yeah, the other thing about Arcturian beings is that a lot of people don't realize that they can travel interdimensionally at will. So there's not just 5D 5D Arcturians or 9D Arcturians. All of them can travel up and down dimensions. So, and the higher in dimension they get, the taller they get. So if they're like a really tall version of an Arcturian, you're probably seeing one that's, very high dimensional.
It was like looking up at a building.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm not surprised to hear that. And the ones that I encountered were smaller, but I think that was because they were pulling down their vibration so that they wouldn't appear so frightening to me. So they were purposefully cooling down their vibrational level. And even then they were really bright. So I was looking at them and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even see them because they're just so bright. And so Arcturians do have the ability to go up and down dimensions at will, which they're one of the few star races that can do that. I'm not sure. Maybe the Andromedans can do that. I don't know, but the Arcturians do it all the time.
We sure do. And this is why so many teachers or those who wrote written books about the Arcturians, how they depict them physically,
Mm-hmm.
they always says what you write about their physical depiction, it's your interpretation of them.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Because this is not what we look like. We're not horse looking. We're not green, bluish.
Right.
We're not 3-4 feet tall. We're not grays like some of them.
Yeah, no. A lot of people say that, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
they're not grays
At all.
Yeah, at all. Yeah.
And none whatsoever. So it's really much of a depiction. I love listening to you, Debbie, and of course interacting with Jeff. It's wonderful because you have to understand, and for me, my lenses is on the other side. I'm looking at the experience as an Arcturian being in this human form, not a star seed. I'm not a soul emanation from our group coming into a physical human form. It's the opposite.
Exactly.
So when you talk about what is it for you, do you feel like they're hard? And I'm like, well, I oftentimes think as an Arcturian, so for me, it's natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to interpret all of this completely from different lenses.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing when we work with, the clients who come to us, the starseed, the light workers,
Mm-hmm.
and even different interdimensional beings. They pop up in my field and says, we want you to work with us because you're Arcturians and I know you'll be able to help us.
Mm-hmm.
So my lenses, so to speak, are from that perspective. I'm rediscovering this world. I'm understanding the earth human journey. I'm understanding emotional. I'm understanding everything through the lens as an Arcturian being. And this is why I love listening to the other aspect, the other form of
the starseed
experiencing.
aspect. Yeah.
The starseed aspect. And I
Yeah.
love it. And how we come together ultimately into working together at a soul level. We all part of this wonderful community. Arcturians, like you mentioned so well, Debbie, we are definitely community or / collective oriented. Again, nothing to do as a beehive mind, unlike the Greys and others. Nothing to do with that. Is that our people are always in connection with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They can be traveling into the 10-dimensional field, and you'll still be in communication with them.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Oh, yes. And we know.
And it's very seamless too. That's what I found. It's very, very seamless. People ask me, well, how do you communicate with your guides? And I said, I'm communicating with my guides all the time. I mean, they're just like having a running conversation. It's not hard at all. Once you get aligned with that,
dimension. You have to be prepared to accept what is going on around you.
Yeah.
And how to manage that flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is that one of the things that I have observed as, again, an Arcturian being into this human experience form is as the collective consciousness of Earth human beings and the planet herself are shifting into higher vibrational stability, our frequencies now have more of a foundation to really start to become more present. This is why there's more talk about the Arcturians. And many people at a soul ancestry level remember their journey through Arcturus in one of their incarnations. So I noticed, I don't know about you, Debbie, but I noticed that the Arcturian frequency or presence are starting to return, and we're going to be more and more predominant in the future timeline coming through, because this is what's pretty much what we're here for.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people ask me, well, why didn't Arcturus have much dealings with Earth in the past? And I said, actually, they did, but it was through very specialized projects. we really value the universal law of non-interference, so unlike the Syrians and the Pleiadians who manipulated the Earth genetics, we didn't have much manipulation involved with Earth genetics at all. So you won't find a lot of Arcturian genetics on planet Earth at all. But what we did do is we did specialized projects in order to bring higher dimensional civilizations, or try to at least, on planet Earth, which we did with Lemuria. We were quite successful with Lemuria. And then we tried again with other civilizations, but maybe with less success. My understanding, as far as my own genetics, is that the Arcturians, and this was something that the Arcturians on board the ship told me, which was actually collaborated with Stuart Swedlow, of all people. I mean, he wrote about it in one of his books, but apparently there was an Arcturian craft that crash landed in central Italy. I'm of Italian heritage in this life. So the Arcturians that were there, they were scientists. They decided, okay, we're going to start up this spiritual civilization, which was the Etruscans. And with my Earth family, my genetics relate, or I'm descended directly from Etruscan lineage, from, in my Earth family. So there was some manipulation during that time, but it was very minimal. And they did it just to see if they could start up a spiritual civilization in Central Europe, which I think it was semi-successful. I don't think it was as successful as Lemuria. Lemuria was probably our most successful project, but that too ended like everything else. But Arcturians, genetics, not very much on planet Earth. So even for Arcturian starseeds like myself, I have a hard time integrating on planet Earth. I feel very, very disconnected from things here. A lot of things feel very dense. I went through a series of years where I experienced a lot of illnesses because my physical body just couldn't get integrated between, my soul, connecting with my getting activated to the Arcturian level, and then trying to integrate my physical body with that. But fortunately now, I'm at the best health I've ever been, probably in my life, because I was able to get integrated, but it took a while to do that. But yeah, going back to what you were saying, yeah, it's just not, we just didn't have as big of an involvement in the past, but we are going to have a much bigger involvement in the future because we are the prototypes. We are the prototype for what Earth is going to eventually evolve to, which is really exciting. I mean, because Arcturus, Edgar Casey says this, and he said that Arcturus was the most advanced civilization in our galaxy, and he was absolutely right. So we are setting the parameters for the evolution of the planet as we speak.
Absolutely. We've always been future model self, future
Exactly.
self coming in. And I've seen also, I've interacted with an aspect of the future aspect of the humanity and how they are really much, like following that wonderful evolutionary process. And this is why that energy has so been very repressed. And I don't know if you found it in your experience, Debbie, but in my experience, I found that many have been other beings of lower frequency impersonating or attempting to impersonate Arcturians, or want to, recreate that and also dismiss the Arcturian by telling us we're Greys or Dark Agent of Orion or whatever that is.
Oh yeah.
And so, have you been encountering this kind of
Oh
challenge?
yeah. I get a lot of clients who think they're connecting with Arcturians, but they're and connecting with imposter beings that are pretending to be Arcturian.
And there's a lot out there like that fool people. They're called tricksters.
That's a good point. So, in your experience, Debbie, and of course, being a true soul emanation of Arcturian energy that you carry as you in
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful human form, what wisdom or advice would you have to people to see how can you recognize a true genuine Arcturian that you're working with guides, whether it's to dream state, whether it's to the guidance to your work, guiding your healing work,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you do? What would be some recommendations?
I would go by the feeling of it. So just because somebody, being presents itself as Arcturian, you have to go by the vibration. So this takes a certain amount of intuitive, I guess, insight, into how does that being make you feel? If you're feeling a lot of love and acceptance and I mean, it just feels very high vibrational, then most likely you're interacting with a genuine Arcturian being. But if there's kind of a questionable aspect of what they're telling you, if they're telling you things that are very negative or just doesn't feel right, then most likely you're dealing with an imposter being.
Thank you. And I would think that mostly every different race has their own energy signature that you can tap into to find out, well, this is a Zeta. Well, that's an Arcturian. That's an Andromedan, But you just have to understand that, realize that there's different signatures that you got to know, and so that you don't kick in the wrong one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just but I've had a few clients that have said, oh, I'm connecting with Arcturian beings, and then I look in the records and I'm like, oh no, they weren't Arcturian. I'm sorry, but I think, a lot of us are awakening to our internal empathic abilities, our internal psychic abilities. I believe we're all psychic. I don't think anybody on the planet is more psychic than another. What's happened is that a lot of us, because we're born into the 3D, we were programmed not to trust ourselves. We were programmed, not to trust our inner intuition. And so we turned it off after childhood, just trying to integrate into, 3D reality. And then now that a lot of us are awakening, and I'm seeing this, all across the planet. I connect with clients all across the planet, even in the weirdest little countries, but which I love. I love that. But it shows me that the planet is awakening, but which is an awesome thing. But a lot of us are integrating those higher gifts, and so so anybody can do what I do or what Vivian does or what Jeff does, so it's not like we're special or we have a special passcode or, anything like that. It's just a matter of practice and just really not second guessing yourself, when you're connecting to the higher realms.
Yeah, actually, what I found out is that from age to age 7 or 8, after that, then for some reason, it's like you're on your own and you don't remember these beings till like some event would happen in your adulthood, and you're like, now you brought everything all back and they actually never left you, but for some reason there's that age that it switches off.
Yeah, totally. I think it generally happens in childhood. Because most children are really open, they're open to higher dimensional energies, and then they get trained not to trust it, or they get trained, or they get punished for, telling stories or, whatever, or, tapping into their intuitive gifts, so they just turn it off. And, part of my goal when I do galactic akashic readings and, the training that I do is helping people to turn it back on. Help them to reconnect with it. And like I said, I'm nobody special. I'm just somebody that got aligned with my star family, and I accepted the mission. So I'm just moving forward, but I make mistakes all the time, and I don't always do everything right. And, so I'm human, I'm having this human experience. So, in its beautiful imperfection that it is, but I'm just real happy to be here and being happy to be able to do the work.
Of course, and I'm glad that you say yes to the mission. And that leads to another good point, that is for everyone to believe in yourself and to understand your uniqueness. Everybody, like Jeff mentioned about the intergalactics,
Mm-hmm.
we all have a very unique vibrational signature, not only from the group that you're interacting with, but also in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine the encoding of all the information right into your DNA, the quantum field memory of your DNA, and connecting to your soul history. So we're definitely moving more into a place of empowerment
Mm-hmm.
when we recognize each other, and also recognizing the individual expression of who you are within a beautiful community of light. I would like to explore a little bit more with you, Debbie, more on the history level, galactic history, if that's okay with you,
Yeah,
especially
that's
right
great.
now.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
it.
awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for this. So let's dive, everyone, because we're shifting so much. And we know we talk about the ascension timeline, and even we, the Arcturians, have monitored for such a long time the probabilities that we have entered into. From your knowledge and your connections of galactic history and akashic records, what can you share with us to enlighten, to help people bring more hope and anchor them in their light about what is really happening on the earth in terms of change of history, where this is potentially moving into? What can you share?
Let's see. I'll have to do the abridged version. I could probably talk about that for 5 hours. I don't know, but
I know.
yeah, we don't have 5 hours, but
Oh, yeah, fine.
I'll give the abridged version of what I see with that. Earth is actually was always designed to be a location because of the uniqueness of the planet and its location. It was designed to be a living library of extraterrestrial DNA from many different extraterrestrial groups. So, from the very beginning of Earth's inception, we've had Syrians from Sirius that were visiting Earth, and Pleiadians and Arcturians and Andromedans and many other races like the Tau Cetians, the Alpha Centaurians, Venusians. So there was many different races that were bringing DNA to planet Earth, and it was just supposed to be like a microcosm of the macrocosm of our universe. That's what Earth was always designed to be. And this also includes draconians from Draco, and also gray alien beings from Zeta Reticuli. So these beings were also inserting their DNA on planet Earth. However, there was negative factions from Orion that escaped the Orion conflicts. That came to Maldek, which used to be a planet between Mars and Jupiter, that wanted to overtake the planet. And then there was also some negative faction from Sirius, particularly what they call the Anunnaki. I don't know if they were totally negative. I think they had some differences within their group. They're kind of neutral, but some lean more to the negative, some lean more to the positive. But these groups wanted to overtake the planet, or they wanted to control the indigenous humans. So they mucked around with their DNA. Humans were initially supposed to be 12-strand DNA. And the DNA got dismantled to only 2 strands, which is what we're currently at right now. So what our goal as light workers, as star beings, star family, what we've been trying to do ever since was get Earth back in alignment with its original cosmic blueprint, which was always supposed to be part of the greater galactic family, but we became separated from that through the, I would say, the manipulation of these malevolent beings that did not want to see us achieve unity consciousness. So now we're starting to awaken, a lot of us are starting to awaken to the fact that, hey, we're not just the only intelligent beings in the galaxy. There's, we're connected with greater galactic beings. And this was a story that started way, way back in Lyra. So I always start off with Lyra whenever I talk about galactic history, because Lyra was the original human template. So Lyra was created. It was a constellation not very far from Galactic Center that, the co-creators decided, okay, we're going to start this descent into physicality in the Lyra system. And the humanoid races, at least in our universe, were originally, created to inhabit the Lyra system. And then the Draconians, who were a star system next to Lyra, decided, hey, we want to conquer that system. And I think it was very purposeful. I think they purposefully created Lyra to be next to Draco, because we had a light system next to a dark system. So let's see how they interact with each other. Of course, I don't think the co-creators could have ever imagined the level of destruction that occurred when the Draconians decided to annihilate the Lyrans. I mean, they annihilated entire planets, which caused the Lyran races, the Lyran survivors, to spread out into the universe. Now, Arcturians, interestingly enough, we're not part of that same consciousness. We're kind of a separate consciousness. We were always designed to be the overseers of this experience, and also to be the guides and the guardians for these other star races. So we were never supposed to be involved with all this trauma and destruction, but we were supposed to be assisting these beings as they evolved past that, so that's why the Arcturian races took on this ambassadorial kind of spiritual guidance type of role that we took, because we were helping them to evolve past this initial destruction in our galaxy. So how this relates to planet Earth is that we see these same themes, these same lessons being played out on this planet even today. We've seen it happen in Sirius. We saw it happen on a grander scale in Orion, and now it's happening here on Earth. So now it's up to all of us to get aligned with higher dimensional potential, so that we can assist with the ascension process. The planet's already ascending. The planet is ascending regardless. It's the humans on this planet that need assistance. So that's why we're here. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my little microcosm description of galactic history and how it relates. I mean, believe me, I can go much more into detail, but time is limited. So if anybody has questions regarding any of that, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Debbie. You took me on a journey. Lots of memories came back to me when you were talking.
Yeah.
I am very close to the Lyrans. Very close.
Me
I work
too.
with them.
Me too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I work with them regularly. I've seen them, the Guardians. My girl, my cat, my tigress is a Lyran soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about it, my heart, my soul just expanded. And you are correct. We are the Arcturians. We are really much the guardians, the ambassadors. We help to heal the soul, to help them evolve past the polarization, war, and all of this. We're the ones who help everybody to evolve, and we overseas were great protectors of life. So it really brought a lot of really distinct ancient galactic memories in me when you were talking about it. I could see everything when you were talking. It's like a projection.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy to hear that, because
I could see, I feel I felt Malbec. I can see into the souls coming in, even to Syrian, Vega, the star there. I felt the presence of the earth in today. So thank you for bringing so beautifully a higher perspective. There's a good question for you in the chat room. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to read it to you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And it's all related to the galactic history anyway.
Yeah, gotcha.
Thank you. Kat is asking, do you know which star race or races were um, incarnated as back in Egypt, the two famous characters, Nefertiti and Akhenaten? Those two personalities. Do you know what star race they were from?
That's interesting. Most likely Syrian. That would be my align. I'm kind of getting with Akhenaten that they came from maybe not Sirius A but Sirius C. That's why he had kind of the really strange appearance. You know, like he had that larger head, and the Sirius C people were hybrid people, so they were a mix of human genetics and reptilian genetics and maybe even amphibian genetics, but a lot of them did have involvement with Samaria and also with Egypt. And so during the time of Egypt, a lot of beings from Sirius, whether it be Sirius A, B, or C, were visiting Egypt and as teachers, and of course the Egyptians saw them as being gods. And so some of them had like this animal appearance, you know, some of them might have appeared like a lion or a cat, or because Syrian beings were not all human. You know, they had, some of them were cat beings, some of them were dog beings. Yeah, you know, so so I would say Sirius, probably Sirius C. As far as Nefertiti, I'm thinking she's probably more of a humanoid representative, but appears more humanoid. But I'm guessing Sirius C for both of them. At least that's the download I'm getting. But great question. Yeah, there was a lot of Syrian and Orion influence on ancient Egypt. Those at least that part of the world, you know, so part of the studies I'm doing right now is trying to see which particular star races influence certain parts of our planet. And my understanding with the Middle East is that a lot of it was influenced by Sirius, Orion, Anunnaki, and maybe even Procyon influences. Procyon being a small star system that's located fairly close to Sirius in the Canis Minor constellation. So so they had some involvement also. So those were just places where they had colonies, and you know, they were conducting, you know, their own projects, you know, out of these colonies. A lot of Pleiadian colonies were located in Northern Europe. So you see more Pleiadian, Aldebaran, Hyadian, you know, so more of the Taurus constellation involvement with Northern Europe. I mean, I can probably speak for another hour on this topic, so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's a great question. I like those kind of hard questions. So yeah, keep them coming. So.
I got a hard question for you.
Okay, all right.
When people have their spirit guides, okay, who are they? Are they Arcturian?
Their spirit guides?
Yeah, everybody's got a spirit guide, right? Well, who are they?
Oh, that's actually not a hard question at all.
it'll get harder as I go.
Okay. So spirit guides, I think, usually they're higher aspects of that person. So depending on where they had their incarnations, or what involvement they had in their soul journey might be indicative of what their spirit guides are appearing as. So a lot of times if I'm working with somebody with, say, Pleiadian genetics or Pleiadian incarnations, a lot of their spirit guides are Pleiadian. It might be representations of maybe their Pleiadian aspects of themselves or their Pleiadian star family or both. And a lot of folks that aren't even Arcturian in genetics or their soul origination will oftentimes have Arcturian guides, because Arcturians work with everybody. We're the guardians. We're the guardians. You know, we work with everybody. So we don't discriminate. We'll work with anybody as long as they're on the path. You know, so I do get a lot of clients that come to me and they say, yeah, I have this Arcturian guide, but I'm Pleiadian, you know, so why do I have an Arcturian guide? I said, well, because they work with everybody. And, you know, because they're very vested right now in the evolution of this planet. And there's quite a few clients I have that aren't necessarily angelic, but they have angelic guides, you know, for that same reason, because the angelic soul family will work with anybody, because they're the higher guidance. So go on with your questions.
Okay, now if you believe that everybody, one Jeff Demmer has got many timelines.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
does my Akashic record speak for all the timelines, or is there many different Akashic records for each timeline?
I would say you probably have one core record, but it contains all your experiences. So that includes your multi-dimensional experiences.
Okay, now can somebody tap into that?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
So basically we can tap into Anunnakins.
Yeah, with their permission. I mean, you know, usually when we do Akashic training, we train people that you cannot access somebody's records without their permission. But sometimes you can get permission from their higher self or higher guidance. So if it's for the highest good, their higher guides will say, yes, you can have access to this person's Akashic records. I did that with Donald Trump because I was curious to know where he was from. And I found out he was from Orion, which is no surprise, but it was like, you know, yeah, and he does have some reptilian genetics, which was really interesting, but mostly higher human genetics. But yeah, his mission's really weird. But yeah, sometimes you can access records if you get permission from their higher guides, you know, so from their higher self, their higher guides. So if you're curious about, say, somebody in your family that is, you know, you're wanting to access your records for benevolent reasons, you know, to help with maybe understanding them or understanding how you can improve your relationship with that person, then more often than not, the guides will allow you to access that person's records. But there is a process to it. So, you know, so it just doesn't happen willy-nilly. You know, there has to be like a formal process to it. But
where are they stored at?
They're stored in the highest dimensional realms. That's it's like the like one step below source. So probably in our universe, I think we have, or they're stored within us, but also outside of us. So it's kind of hard to describe. So all of us have access to the Akashic records because they're contained within us, but they're also outside of us.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's hard to describe. I wish I could describe it better, and it doesn't look like a big library. So, I mean, that's how people like to envision it. But I think the records can look like anything according to what your frame of reference is. How I usually see it is when I'm accessing the records, this is my own personal frame of reference, but when I access the records, it looks like I'm taking somebody's crystal and opening it, and their whole story comes out of it. So I see it like a movie almost, like I see their whole story.
But you can see the past, but you can't see what lays in front of them.
No, I can. I can see probabilities.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can see. That happens almost every akashic reading. I can see their probabilities, and of course, because we're free will beings, we can, we have free will, so we can, our choices determine our future. So, but I can see like, okay, you have a 60% probability that this is likely going to happen if you make these choices. So a lot of it's based on what we choose, but it also enables us to look into the future, and we can also look into interdimensional realms. So a lot of times when I'm doing a reading, I might tell somebody, this is an alternate dimension. It's not really a true incarnation. It's you having an experience in multi-dimensional aspects of yourself. So the records are really multi-layered, and I think it takes a certain amount of discernment and professional, I guess, professional intuition to know what you're looking at. When you're accessing the higher galactic records.
Yeah, because the Zetas talk about probables and possibilities meshed into one,
Mm-hmm.
and they go into specific detail about life past and everything.
Oh yeah,
Interesting.
and even here on the planet too has many different timelines.
Correct.
So depending on the choices that the collective of the planet chooses, then it moves forward into a certain timeline. That's why a lot of people talk about Mandela effects, because those are shifts in the timeline. It's just kind of like physical little shifts. The timeline shifts, so then certain little details get shifted. So that's what they call Mandela effects, where a logo might change, or somebody say something in a movie that changes. So there might be something that existed in an old timeline, but that doesn't exist in a new timeline. So a lot of that is a result of us making different choices.
Correct. All right. Gotcha. And then that's where deja vus come in, when you can cross over. Like I've done this before, but that's actually already crossed over.
That's why people get deja vu experiences, where they feel like, oh, I've done this before. It's because they're re-experiencing that timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then this is why it's important as well, everybody, to see what your intentions are. What do you feed the most? Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling love? Are you feeling unity? What is it that you're investing yourself? So this is why we invite, this is also an invitation from all of us, to ground yourself and rediscover who you are, rather than spreading yourself so thin. I see so many clients and people come to me, but they're spread too thin spiritually, and they're just assembling, and they are involved in so many groups and so many things. They listen to so many stuff, but none of them really teach them who they really are and helping them to get what we call higher disciplines. So this is important, to clear yourself, stay grounded, and avoid a distraction, and understand that what you feed is sustaining that direction. So if you are involved with ascension, that keep those energy and those vibration at a higher level. So everyone play a role, and it's important. We can only be there to guide you, to point in directions, to bring teachings, to bring elevations, stabilizing the frequencies, but we need all of you. This is very important.
That's very true.
Absolutely. There's a question that someone asked 3 times, so I want to honor that person.
Okay, sure.
She's asking, Sevi is asking, where are the Mongolians from? What is the alignment with potential star rays?
That's I see Mongolia quite a bit in the records, so I can probably answer this question. Mongolians, their genetics are mostly based from Andromedan and Orion. So it's kind of a mix. They get kind of the aggressive nature from the Orion groups, but they also have a very rich shamanistic culture, which probably descended from some of their Andromedan genetics. So yeah, great question.
Perfect. See, told you, Sevi, not Arcturians, more like Andromedan and the Orions, which I felt.
Orions, yeah.
Yeah, I felt it.
Yeah, the Arcturians were the only ones that I think our genetics are kind of spread really thin throughout. So you won't see like one group that I would say is predominantly Arcturian, unlike other star groups that had more involvement with planet Earth.
Very well said, Debbie. Very well said. Having you today, it's so refreshing.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for dealing with all my technical issues earlier.
Oh,
I know
no
it was kind
problem.
of frustrating, but
Happens to us too all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't skip a beating. We just keep the space. We keep it rolling. I was keeping an eye on the chat room.
No, thank you for allowing me the time to get back on. So appreciate it.
Absolutely, a pleasure. We have time for one last question, if that's okay with you, Debbie. It's a beautiful question from Kat. She said, to your knowledge, of course, Debbie, and your expertise, did the blue vegan race bring the Vedic texts and sutra to the earth?
Absolutely, yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
See? An easy question.
Easy question. Yeah, that's so easy. Sorry. I don't mean to make it sound like it's easy, but it is. Yeah, the Ayurvedic medicine especially came from the Vega race. They had a big influence on that part of planet Earth.
Yeah, I felt that too. So what have you learned here? It's not because you see a blue being that it's an Arcturian. So that's refreshing to be able to say publicly. Yay, I love it. So I want to make sure people find you, Debbie. So I'm going to show you right now on the screen, and I posted in the chat room as well. I want to make sure that they find your website.
Yep.
Very easy, debbiesolaris.com. I got it directly from your bio. We invite everyone to go see. Also, you have a media sheet, a media
page.
Thank you. I'm moving up and up in the.
Yeah. You're moving up and down those dimensions. So
I'm like, okay, go back to language here, 3D language, please.
Yeah, 3D language. Yeah,
exactly. So we invite everyone to connect with Debbie. Here's the website right on the screen. I also posted it in the chat room to make sure it is visible. So that the people wants to connect with you, they have a direct access to you. What is also the thing that is unique to us is that when we bring someone on our podcast, we really highlight you. We really honor what you do, who you are, and we're here to support. So the dialogue has been around supporting who you are and the amazing work that you bring to the earth.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and as far as several people I've noticed have asked about personal readings. I am still doing personal readings, but my waiting list is so long that you're welcome to reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. But I do have an extremely long waiting list as far as that. But we do offer some Kajabi trainings. I am offering a Galactic Akashic reading course. It starts tomorrow. So if you're interested in joining up for that course, we still have today to register. We've left the registration open for a month, but the course does start May 1st. So you might want to act fast if you're interested in that. But it's in a very immersive course teaching you how to read the Galactic Akashic records, and it's an 8-week-long course. So if you think that's your jam, then yeah, please join us. We'd love to have you. Anyway, thank you, Vivian and Jeff, both of you, for having me on. This has been a real honor and a real pleasure to be here today. And I hope I can return again. I just love your guys' energy. So I just feel like I'm at home with both of you. So thank you so much.
We can go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. So we'll have to do this again soon, hopefully. But many blessings to both of you.
Thank you.
Oh,
anytime.
Absolutely, Debbie. The pleasure is all ours, and the door is open. And of course, it is a no-brainer. There will be a part 2 and more
to it. Maybe. We'll just keep going on as long as we have to. But
and yet we have an hour and a half, and it goes fast. I want to invite everyone to join us for our next podcast on. Jeff, is that May 7th that the next podcast is?
It is the 14th.
May the 14th, Sunday, May 14th. No, I got the 7 on my. Okay, we'll have to announce it. I have May 7 on my schedule. So who's coming? Do we have Z coming back to the podcast?
Yes, Z is coming back. He just got done doing a couple more books. Amazingly, this guy is amazing. He's a force. So he'll be here on the 14th.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Debbie, again. Today has
Thank
been
you.
phenomenal. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for anchoring also Arcturian frequency from our collective. We need all of us because there's not that many of us on the
No,
planet.
there's not. Yeah, we're one of the rarest groups on the planet. But
We are one of the rare birds on the planet for
yeah.
sure. And I acknowledge the challenges that it represents for our people. And so much love to you. And Jeff, of course, my friend, much love to you as well. I appreciate you deeply. And we will see you back right here on the Infinite Star Connection podcast. In the meantime, what do we always says? Walk in the certainty of your light. Namaste, everyone.